Brian had always believed that love should be a wildfire, untamed, consuming, and impossible to resist. From the moment he met Nora, that fire had sparked between them, raw and electric, pulling them into a whirlwind of passion. Their bodies had spoken a language of their own, urgent, desperate, hands roaming, mouths tasting, pleasure never feeling like enough. She was intoxicating, soft where it mattered, fierce where he needed her to be. Every stolen glance, every teasing whisper, ignited something primal in him, something that made him claim her again and again. They explored each other with reckless abandon, their nights stretching into dawn, their sheets tangled in proof of their insatiable hunger. Even after the wedding, even after Kyle was born, Brian had never doubted the depths of their connection. When she looked at him, it was with a hunger that mirrored his own, a silent promise that no matter how life changed, they would always return to this fire. But fire, if left unchecked, does not just burn bright, it consumes. And what had once been their greatest strength, their endless desire for each other, was slowly turning into the very thing that would destroy them. The early days of their marriage had been a perfect storm of passion and ambition. Brian worked tirelessly to provide for their growing family, taking on extra shifts, pushing himself beyond exhaustion just to see Nora smile. He wanted to give her everything, stability, comfort, the kind of life he never had growing up. But Nora, with her wild spirit and insatiable desires, was never one to settle. At first, she reveled in his ambition, seducing him late into the night, rewarding his hard work with whispered promises and sultry glances. Their connection was undeniable, their nights filled with breathless moans and tangled limbs. But as the months passed, something shifted. The fire in her eyes dimmed, her kisses became routine, her touch absent-minded. Brian noticed the way she lingered on her phone, the way she dressed up on nights she had nowhere to be. He told himself it was nothing, just paranoia from working too much, from spending too many hours away while she cared for Kyle. Then came the distance, the avoidance, the slow unraveling of the woman he once knew. She would slip into bed late, her scent unfamiliar, her body tense when he reached for her. The once burning hunger in her touch had turned to obligation, her moans empty echoes of what they used to be. And with every passing night, Brian felt the growing weight of something unspoken between them, something dark and ugly that he was too afraid to name. The night everything changed, Brian came home earlier than expected. The house was dimly lit, the scent of Nora's perfume lingering in the air, a heady, intoxicating aroma that once drove him wild, but now felt like a warning. His footsteps were slow, careful. As he stepped inside, listening, the distant hum of music pulsed through the walls, low and sultry. His gut twisted. Something was off. He moved toward the bedroom, heart pounding, every instinct screaming at him to turn back, to pretend he hadn't noticed the shift in her lately, the way she clung to her phone, the way she suddenly had so many late-night errands. But he had ignored too many signs already. Then he heard it, a hushed giggle, breathless and intimate, followed by the unmistakable sound of fabric rustling, of bodies shifting against sheets. The floor beneath him felt unsteady as he stepped forward, as he reached for the door, pulse hammering in his ears. His fingers curled around the handle. He could walk away now, pretend this moment never happened. But the truth was already unraveling before him, whether he was ready for it or not. With a deep breath, he pushed the door open. The sight hit him like a gut punch. Nora, his wife, the mother of his child, arched beneath another man, her lips parted in a gasp of pleasure, fingers gripping the sheets like she had once gripped him. The moment stretched, endless, as his world shattered around him. Brian sat in his car, gripping the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white. The image of Nora tangled in the sheets with another man burned into his mind, a searing brand of betrayal that refused to fade. He had stormed out of the house without a word, without an explosion of rage, just a numbing, all-consuming emptiness. His ears still rang with the echo of her gasp, with the way her body had arched in pleasure, with a look of shock on her face when she had finally noticed him standing in the doorway. His phone buzzed on the passenger seat. He didn't need to check the screen to know who it was. Nora had already called him 3 times, probably scrambling for damage control, weaving together a story that might salvage what was left. But what was left? His trust? His love? His sense of security? He exhaled shakily, his breath uneven, his thoughts fractured. His wedding ring felt like a shackle around his finger, burning with the weight of a promise she had just shattered. The silence of the car was suffocating, yet the thought of going anywhere, of facing the raw, humiliating truth, felt even worse. Finally, he reached for his phone, his thumb hovering over the screen. Should he answer? Demand explanations? Scream? Cry? But instead, with a slow, deliberate breath, he powered the device off. He needed time, space, needed to decide what the hell came next, without the poison of her lies clouding his mind. Brian sat in the dim glow of the kitchen, the hum of the refrigerator the only sound breaking the silence. His fingers curled around a glass of whiskey, the amber liquid untouched, swirling slowly as he stared at it. The weight of the past weeks pressed heavily on his chest, suffocating, relentless. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her, Nora, arching beneath another man, her body moving in perfect rhythm with someone who wasn't him. It was more than just betrayal. It was erasure, a reminder that everything he thought they had built together was nothing more than an illusion. She had tried to talk to him, of course. The calls, the texts, the desperate knocks on the door. But he refused to answer, refused to let her weave more lies into his already shattered world. When she had finally cornered him at work, her eyes filled with forced remorse, she whispered, "It didn't mean anything, Brian." He had laughed then, a hollow, bitter sound that felt foreign even to him. "It meant something to me." She had flinched, looking away. But he wasn't interested in her shame. He wanted his own dignity back, his own sense of self. And that's when he realized this wasn't about her anymore. This was about him, about reclaiming his life, his pride, his desires. He wasn't going to let her define him. He was done drowning in heartbreak. It was time to rise, to take back control, to live. The night air was thick with tension, the scent of rain clinging to the pavement as Brian stood outside the sleek hotel bar, his fingers tightening around the edge of his jacket. Inside, laughter and music swirled together in an intoxicating blend of temptation and escape. He hadn't planned on being here, hadn't planned on stepping into a world he had long abandoned. The world of desire without consequence, of touch without meaning. But here he was, a man starved for something he couldn't quite name. Something deeper than revenge, something more primal than mere release. He stepped inside, the warmth wrapping around him instantly. His gaze flickered across the room, past the polished businessmen and their half-drunk martinis, past the women in painted-on dresses and smoky eyes. Then he saw her, dark waves cascading over bare shoulders, lips painted a deep, sultry red, eyes that seemed to strip him bare with a single glance. She wasn't just beautiful. She was dangerous, the kind of woman who knew exactly what she wanted and took it. As if sensing him, she turned, a slow, knowing smile curving her lips. She raised her glass, an invitation, a challenge. And just like that, the weight in his chest eased, if only for a moment. He wasn't here to fix his broken heart. He wasn't here to mourn what had been stolen from him. No, tonight was about indulgence, about reclaiming the fire inside him. And as he walked toward her, he decided he was ready to burn. The night unfolded in a haze of electric tension, the air between them charged with something primal, something undeniable. Brian's fingers skimmed along the curve of her bare shoulder, tracing the warmth of her skin as she leaned into him, her breath hot against his neck. The dim glow of the hotel room cast long shadows across their entwined bodies, the city skyline glittering beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows, an indifferent witness to the storm building between them. She let out a soft, knowing laugh, her nails trailing down his chest, igniting a fire that had long been buried beneath heartbreak and betrayal. This wasn't love, wasn't even romance. It was something raw, something necessary, a reclaiming of his body, of his power, of the passion that had been drained from him by years of sacrifice for a woman who had only ever taken. Her lips found his, slow at first, teasing, testing, before deepening into something more urgent. Hands roamed, sheets tangled, the world outside ceasing to exist. In this moment, there was no past, no future, only sensation, only release. He lost himself in the heat of her body, in the way she moved against him, unapologetic and unafraid. As dawn threatened the horizon, Brian lay beside her, his heart pounding, his body still humming with the aftermath. He didn't love her, didn't even know her name, but for the first time in a long time, he felt alive. And for now, that was enough. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of quiet revelations and simmering tension. Brian had thought that after indulging in passion, after losing himself in the heat of another body, he would feel whole again. But as he sat alone in his apartment, staring at the blinking cursor of an unsent message on his phone, he realized something unsettling. None of it had filled the void. The satisfaction had been fleeting, a temporary high that left behind only silence and the same aching hollowness in his chest. Nora's betrayal still haunted him, lingering like a shadow in the corners of his mind. No matter how many lips he kissed, no matter how many hands traced his skin, he couldn't shake the ghost of her touch. He had given her everything, trusted her implicitly, only to be discarded like an afterthought. And now, as if the universe hadn't humiliated him enough, she had the audacity to reach out. Her name flashed on his screen, followed by a message. "Can we talk?" Brian exhaled sharply, his grip tightening around the phone. He could almost hear her voice, the faux regret dripping from every syllable. He knew exactly what she wanted: redemption, validation, maybe even a way back in. But he was done. Done playing the fool, done being used. With a smirk of finality, he deleted the message, blocking her number. Let her live with the consequences of her choices. He had already wasted enough time. The moment Brian blocked Nora's number, a strange sense of relief washed over him. It wasn't triumph, nor was it satisfaction. It was something deeper, quieter, an acceptance of the finality of it all. He had spent so much time questioning, replaying every moment, every missed sign, every red flag he had ignored in the name of love. But now, there was no more need for analysis, no more longing for an apology that would never come. He stepped onto his balcony, inhaling the crisp night air, letting the silence settle around him like an old companion. The city lights flickered in the distance, indifferent to his struggles, his pain. And maybe that was the lesson. Life moved on, whether he was ready or not. He wasn't just a man scorned. He was a man reborn, standing at the precipice of something new. For the first time in a long time, he smiled. Not because he was happy, not yet, but because he knew he would be. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon. And when that day came, it wouldn't be because of Nora. It would be because he had finally chosen himself. The story of Brian and Nora serves as a stark reminder that love alone isn't enough to sustain a relationship. Trust, respect, and shared responsibility are the true pillars of a lasting bond. In today's world, where distractions and temptations are everywhere, it's easy to lose sight of what truly matters. If you ever feel undervalued, manipulated, or taken for granted, don't ignore the signs. Know your worth and set boundaries. Prioritize your self-respect over the fear of being alone. Healing takes time, but walking away from toxic love opens the door to the kind of love that values and nurtures you.